Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is G. You're watching Allastrology and Aquarius. This is your May 2023. We have an eclipse coming, and it's in a fixed sign. So let's take a look together. Let's just walk through this, and we'll walk through it. I'm gonna touch on three main things. You know how I do, right? Might be a few more things added to that because it's astrology. It's your life. It's complex. It's not, it's not this or that. There's all these things in between, and so that's part of it. That's part of the beautiful soup of life, the stock on the stove. That's kind of how I look at life, depending upon how rich, right? How much depth there is to it. That means there's more ingredients, more details, right? So it gets complex really fast, and we kind of, sometimes we need a little clarity. You look into a nice rich broth and it's like, wow, I can't tell what's in there exactly, So we will start off by talking about the eclipse, May 5th. Just tell you right off the bat, May 5th eclipse. And this eclipse is a partner with the previous eclipse that happened in April. Now, you might see this video before the April eclipse occurs. That's a possibility. And whether you have or haven't, just pay attention, because the April eclipse is on this end. Right. It's like on the Taurus end. Yeah, because it's technically a 29 degrees eclipse in Aries, right? But it's like 2950, 2955. So in astrology, we go up to the next degree, which would be a 30 degrees. We round it up. Well, there is no 30 degrees of a sign, but there is a 0 degrees of a sign. Right. So we kind of round that up, and if we go to 0 degrees, what's the next sign after Aries? Taurus. Right. So we're talking about that because that's Venus. Venus ruled that eclipse, basically, even though it's kind of like got a Venus and Mars beginning, right? A big deal, because when Venus and Mars get together, they can make a baby, right? They can start something. Yeah. So that was the eclipse in April. And then here we are, May 5th, an eclipse in Scorpio. Right. Fascinating, isn't it? Right. Because Scorpio, the exact opposite of Taurus energy. So this was like Mars and Venus. And down here, this is Mars and Pluto, because Mars and Pluto are the rulers of Scorpio energy. Now, why would this matter for you? Because you're Aquarius, right? And so the fixed cross is the 4 fixed signs, right? And when I say cross, that means it angles it in a way that can be a little jagged, can be a little rough. It can be a little stressful, possibly, because that's what the fixed energies do. They create stress and tension, and they kind of force us to make decisions and to change something. And because it's fixed energy, we know fixed doesn't want to budge. It likes things the way they are, right? Or in Aquarius's example, it has a very strong thought process, and it believes, but it's more than a belief. It feels like it knows, I don't want to say better. Like, what's the right word to use? It thinks it's the authority figure, even though it can also feel like it's the rebel, meaning it will rebel and it doesn't want to do like what has always been done. It wants to buck tradition. It wants to say, no way, Jose, been there, done that. I'm over it. Like, I'm not doing that. I understand you want to do that. I understand that's good for you, but I'm going this route. Very independent energy. So this Aquarius energy receives what we call a T-square, right? So for Aquariuses, this can be challenging. And I know this is challenging because my mom is an Aquarius sun, and she's really been going through it since January, since her birthday. There was a new moon right on her sun. And so it showed a new beginning, a new cycle in her life. And it absolutely was. Like, everything changed from that moment on. Her life, as she knows it, completely changed. And and it's just a cycle that she's going through. And that's how it is for all of us. We just have to kind of weather these storms, so to speak, right? So you batten down the hatches, you kind of make sure that you're just taking care of what you can, and you can control and maintain what you have the ability to control and maintain, right? And so she's been receiving the squares from Taurus energy and the squares from Scorpio, because those were the eclipses have been, you see? And so they give that that uncomfortable square angle, and it's like, oh, So for Aquarian energy, it doesn't want to conform, because Aquarius isn't supposed to conform. It's really supposed to strike out and go on its own. I liken the Aquarian energy to either young or old, because it can be both people in your life. And so if we're young, it's that little, no, I won't say little kid, but it's that young adult who's graduating from high school. Think about when you were a teenager and you were starting to hang out around with your friends, right? Like really hang around with them. Sometimes we don't go home at night, right? We're like, oh, I'm going to sleep over, or I'm going on a trip or something. And so we're not with mom and dad. We feel like we're becoming adults and we're forming our own family, right? And so we have to literally strike out on our own, and we have to be responsible. We have to show that we're responsible. We have to be able to take care of ourselves and put the gas in the car and have our own money, right? To do these things that we want to do independently. And so these are the young adult energy, Aquarius, okay? But they can also be the authority figures in your life, like dad, mom, boss at the job. Oh, I want to go on a trip. I got to take off time from the work. Boss says, oh, no, you're not. Like, we need you. You can't take off this week. You can't take off. Or you didn't give me enough notice, kind of stuff. And it's just like, right. And it's just like, but I want to do what I want to do, right? I don't want to have to listen to those rules. Aquarius is more about creating a new form, creating something new, doing something different. Uranus rules Aquarius. So it likes exciting, new. Yeah, it's really all about that. And so we know in this day and age now that Aquarian energy it's like online stuff, right? But is it? We're finding out that there is a lot of these Aquarian, especially the youth, some of those people who are the young adults striking out because of how they've grown up, acclimated to tech, right? And the devices and the social platforms. There's like an aversion to it for the younger generation that's listening to this video. There's an aversion to it. And so we find there's some of them that are trying to go back to the roots and are trying to figure out, well, how did my ancestors who didn't have the technology, how did they do this? How did they live? How did they function, right? And so we are in a day where we're like going forward with the tech, because this is just part of the future, but we also have a generation that is like, kind of like, I've seen where this takes us, and it's not a good place. I'm not liking it at all, right? I want to be able to be independent. I don't want to be dependent on the old way of doing things, like work, traditional forms of work, or thinking even. And so this revolutionary Aquarian energy is powerful, and it's being more empowered because of Pluto. And so that's what makes this eclipse in Scorpio really fascinating, because we have Pluto over here in Aquarius, and then we've got Mars, right? And Pluto being the rulers of Scorpio, which angles Aquarius, which is angling Pluto. It's almost like a Pluto squaring Pluto, stress and tension. And so this is like power over here and power over here. So if it feels like it's a power play, power pull, power struggle, like like we're at odds with each other, and they're powerful and who's going to win, that's because that's kind of what's going on. And so look up the degrees 1458 in your chart. If you don't have your chart, and if you need your chart, or if you have your chart but you're not sure, right? You're like, okay, I'm pretty familiar with this. I feel like I know what I'm talking about. If you just need confirmation from me, comment to me below and I will help you figure that out. I will help you in any way that I can. Okay. And if you don't even want a chart, but you just want me to take a look for you, you can do that too. You just comment to me and let me know what you want me to do and how I can help you. And I will figure something out. We'll figure out a way where we can help you get some clarity on what I'm talking about. Okay. So 1458 is the Scorpio eclipse. Scorpio eclipse. This is happening in your 10th house, Aquarius. This is your midheaven now. And I speak about a midheaven. This is a place in life where it is like your goals and your ambitions. And it is like that thing you do that makes you you, but you will be known for it. Because when we say you will be known for, it's something you have to work at for a very long period of time. And so you will have found once you're older, and for some of you listening who may have been born, you know, some years back, you may be looking back on your life and understanding, like you can see the themes of what you've worked towards. And if it's Scorpio, which it is at the midheaven, these are things that you are willing to fight for. Scorpio is a battle. Scorpio goes to war, right? It's also got a lot of power because it's not only got the I'm really and ready to fight Mars, but it also has Pluto, its uncle or its big brother that's got its back. And so it's got like this unbelievable power where it can just surge forward, but it can dive deep into the darkness, into the dark territories of life, where it's like, I don't know how I made it through that, but then it somehow comes up like that phoenix rising, right? And so this is career. Typically it's career. It's not just to career though. It's whatever is a goal for you. Whatever you're like, I want to do that. Scorpio is the ultimate researcher, right? These can be like, I had somebody talking about their Scorpio energy saying that they're an archaeologist, right? Because it likes the dig. It's really like the super detective of the zodiac, but because Pluto is literally like that rotor, so it can dig deep down, it can keep on digging, right? So people who are into research, diggers, but you can literally be like excavators, people who are literally like, I'm doing the bulldozer type thing and I'm excavating property and land and we're digging, right? Like anything that requires digging. Are you doing intellectual digging? Yeah, right? So you let me know, comment to me, let me know, what do you do, or what is it that you have found that you do that you kind of like, even if you don't get paid for it, because let's be real, this is like a vocation. It's something where you just feel really drawn to do, and you do it no matter what. Some would maybe even call it like, oh, it's a hobby of mine. I'm just always doing this. I really like it. So let's be clear though, Scorpio energy is also like the metaphysician. It's esoteric, it's mysterious, it's deep, it's dark. And it doesn't have to be like deep, dark in a bad way, not at all. It's talking about an understanding or trying to figure out, right, that other side of life that isn't so material or tangible, right? It's more of like the astral realm. So it's like I can talk to dead loved ones, right? It's a bit mysterious, okay? Scorpio's super psychic. So for some of you, you may even have a career, you may have a job, you may have found out that there's things that you just are really good at because you have like these knowings. Scorpio, psychic Scorpio energy, and Pluto having your back. And trust me, when you got Pluto having your back at your midheaven like that, Pluto is like this power that cannot be defeated. Some say that Pluto power is literally, the power is divine and that comes through, right? I speak to it like as in our soul power and our soul history. And so it kind of can touch in with other lifetimes, or however you like to look at that and talk about it, right? So you could say soul history, soul memory, but it's deep, it's got depth, it's powerful, it demands authenticity. Pluto energy. This is at your midheaven, your goals. So what is it that you've been working towards, right? Maybe it's like, well, I don't know what I've been working towards, but I bet you any money that when you have something that you're like, okay, this is my goal. So for some people, they want to be soldiers when they're younger, because that's Scorpio energy at the midheaven. Oh, I want to fight. I want to fight for those that can't fight. I want to fight for our freedoms, right? I'm willing to go to battle. And so they use the energy that way. But there's a lot of other ways energy can be used, right? There's a lot of other ways it can be used. And so doing something for others, fighting for those who can't fight for themselves. Back in the day, these would be the people who were like the crusaders, who literally took that energy, that Scorpio and that Pluto energy, and were like fighting for a religious purpose, a belief connected to that they felt was working towards a higher cause, something more worthy than themselves, right? Because that's what Pluto wants us to do. It wants us to have high standards, but to never abuse the power that it has given us. And at your midheaven, this is like big, major boss energy. But that might be difficult for some people because Scorpio isn't about fake. And that's what you have at your midheaven. It's not about, it's not about fluff. It doesn't want it, it wants real. So it can like kind of has a really high bullshit meter, really high. Okay. So when it thinks about its long-term possibilities, this is your midheaven, long-term possibilities, it may be reconsidering, okay, I just realized like, yeah, this is not going to work for my long-term. And when I say this, what is that? Your job or whatever one of your goals were. So some of you could be deciding because of this eclipse, it's got a powerful release vibration to it because it's in Scorpio. And Scorpio's like, but this was our shared values. But because it's an eclipse, it's a lunar eclipse, it's emotions, deep emotions, stuff likely from the past. And this helps us to say, you know what? I've been carrying this around and there's a huge release here and I'm going to let it out. And I'm going to just let it go. I no longer can carry this torch for this thing from the past. And typically can be wounds associated with this because think soldier, people who fight, right? If you're fighting for another, fighting for yourself or whatever you're fighting for, there's some sort of wounds, right? And so there's emotional wounds. There's blood bonds associated with this. There can be family bonds. There can be insurance monies associated to this. This can be people who you vibe with energetically. All right. And so you can do that intimately, physically, right? For some of you, there might have been a little bit of that happened on the job, or you met somebody at the job and that's Scorpio energy because it wants to go to another level, but a more meaningful level, something that's got depth and that's got purpose to it. And many times when we meet people, especially if we get along really well, like energetically, like it's just, there's an ease involved. And then it's just like, we want this intenseness. We want, it's like all or nothing, there's this intensity involved in it. So having an eclipse here means there may be like an aha of, damn, this just isn't it anymore, right? This job, this goal that I this isn't it anymore. It's time to just let this go. I didn't even know I was carrying this around. That could be too. There could be wounds. There could be hurts from the past, vulnerabilities with people who are in charge even, or a vulnerability with yourself being in charge because it's at the midheaven. And these are typically people who are in charge. This is like dad energy, right? Boss energy, someone that's kind of like an authority figure in our life. And so you yourself, there may have been an apprehension, right? There may have been this like, I don't think I want that responsibility because there's just like this soul history, soul memory that comes involved, right? So what happens when we have an eclipse? Because it's lunar, it's a release. This means it's a full moon in Scorpio eclipse. It's a full moon, right? So our emotions might get elevated, okay? And when I say the degrees, if you don't have something like at the, we'll just round it up to a 15-degree eclipse. So it's 2 degrees before, 2 degrees after. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 degrees of Scorpio and Taurus. We're going to do both. Okay. On this, for this video, I keep hearing, make sure to tell everybody to pay attention to their Scorpio and Taurus energies at those degrees. All right. And that's normally how eclipses work. But there are times when I'm not guided to even mention the opposite end of it. But for this one, I'm being told, do not forget to talk about the opposite of the Scorpio, which is Taurus, which is kind of why I began the video talking about the planets that rule Taurus so that we understand, we kind of have a little bit of the backstory because of April. The eclipse was here, right? And so here we are on May 5th. There's a release, there's a closure, there's a completion, and it can be an ending. Okay. And because it's Scorpio, there's usually some wounds and some hurts. And so if this is a father figure, if this is an authority figure in your life, if this is literally someone at a job, like a boss, this can bring great healing. Or I should say, and it can be all of that, but it can also be you deciding that goal that you had is no longer a goal. It just no longer serves you and you're done with it. And so you release and you let go. Okay. So that's the beginning of the month. Scorpio lunar. They both mean releasing and letting go. They both represent emotions. And the moon is also like family, dad, right? But the moon can be feminine energy. So there might be something with mom involved in that. There can be tribal energy involved or ancestry involved in this as well. Okay. So everybody's so different. Everyone's got free will. So I try to think of, well, I kind of wait for the guidance to tell me, okay, what words should I use? Because there's a lot of words. There's more words that can be used, right? So when we think of Scorpio and we think of the eclipse, we have to remember it's a south node eclipse. Well, damn, the south node is also a freaking release. Yeah. So you see why this eclipse is like a really big deal, because it's release the moon. It's release Scorpio, our shared values, Scorpio, a release, right? A release south node. So there's like a lot of stuff here. And when the south node comes through and it's with Scorpio, it's like, okay, this is ending. This is absolutely over. This is ending. Okay. So that's the beginning of the month, right? Now, this month is kind of tricky because we have a Mercury retrograde occurring. Okay. Now, it began in April. There's videos out already about it. They've been out for a little bit of time. If I remember, I'll link them below. If I don't, and if you want to see that, and if you're not sure, just comment to me and say, gee, where's the video? Give me the link, whatever. But the retrograde's important because guess what? Guess what sign the Mercury's going through? The opposite of the Scorpio energy. That's Taurus. This is in your home. You see? So you had, and now it's the same energy. I'm just going to turn it because in a chart, we talk about the midheaven up high, the midheaven here. And the home is at the opposite end of the midheaven here. Okay. So your fourth house, your home, Mercury's going through there. This means you're changing the way you think about what you value in terms of the word home. Now, when we say this, this is a whole slew of words in here because the moon, home, same thing, the moon and the home. Yes, the moon represents your home. So yeah, right. You're having the moon up here and then you're having the moon here. Absolutely. There is something changing because it's Taurus and that's what your values are. All right. You're going through some sort of a cycle where you're rethinking, reprioritizing, you're reevaluating what and who you value. What looks like home for you? What must your home have for it to feel like home? Is location involved? Food, the earth, what the earth is going through, all these changes, right? Whole lot of us going through this. Like, I'm ready to move, but damn, my options are kind of slim. Like before, I never gave it a second thought what was going on with climate change. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, whoa. So the home is a big deal. And if you have Taurus in the home, creature comforts are big with Taurus energy. Think Venus. It wants peace and beauty, quality. Okay. Peace, beauty, and quality, goodness. The earth matters. It should have a lot of earth tones, be very earthy, whether it's flowers and vegetation, wood, trees, like all those things are super important. Food. Do I have a garden? That's all big stuff with Taurus energy. These were the farmers, Taurus energy. They worked with the land, Taurus energy. This is in your home. This is in your home. So Mercury's going through there and it's reevaluating, reprioritizing. Mercury is all about, I'm collecting the data. I'm talking about things. I'm thinking about things. It's news. So it's like, what's going on in the news? What am I hearing? It's making me rethink some things that I used to value and I'm reprioritizing. All right. Now, I got to talk about the next thing, which is a new moon that's coming up. And it's in this month and it's in the same sign as the damn Mercury retrograde. It's in Taurus. So it's in your home. And a new moon is all about a new beginning in your home. So this is like, I mean, this is fascinating for me when I'm talking to Aquariuses with this. Are you moving? Are you considering moving? Are you maybe just making major changes in your home where you're like, this is what I need for it to feel more like home, right? And this whole time you might have been working on the home thinking, well, I'm doing all this because this is what I want. This is what's important. And then when you get done with all that renovating and all that work, all of a sudden, for some reason, could be because of the work up here, the midheaven, the job, the goals, the ambitions, your goals changed. And if that changes, because this can be marriage for some people, this could be the career, right? Absolutely. This could be like, well, for my long term goals, right? If you got a house that's got steps and you're thinking for long term goals, I need a ranch, right? And so that would change where you live because you're like, all of a sudden, this home isn't going to work for me in my senior years, right? So depending upon your age, depending upon where you're located, depending upon a whole slew of things, because this is just a general reading, right? All of these things are going over in your mind. And for some of you, it might even be finances, absolutely, because it's Taurus. It could be finances, right? And we know Taurus is also banking and the banking sector and all that nightmare that's been going on with the tech industry and the tech banks and whatever. And I don't know a whole lot about it. So yeah, you tell me. But a whole lot's happening. And I know there's changes occurring because Pluto's in Aquarius, your sign. And Pluto is squaring all that Taurus energy. It's angling it like that. Right. It's a 90-degree angle. So it makes it uncomfortable and it challenges our values, challenges the banking system. It gives it a shake and a rattle. It literally shakes it up. And guess what's left? Guess who's still sticking and hanging on, right? That's kind of what Pluto's job is to do to the banking system. Give it a shake up. And whoever's still hanging on, okay, they're of substance. They're of quality. They're going to make it. And whoever didn't have that, they're all going to fall away. And so maybe you're thinking that about your home. Maybe you're like, damn, how old is this place anyway? I mean, I don't know, right? There's just a lot of different ways you can be thinking about because Mercury's doing a retrograde, which means it likes to rethink. It might even be redoing things. Okay. So look for the degrees of your Mercury in your chart. If you have your charts between 6 and 16 degrees, ask me about the video. I'll try to remember to link it below to help you. It'll give you more ideas of how this is looking in your life. But the new moon in Taurus, also in your home, is on the 19th of April. Now, Mercury is not out of the shadow zone yet at this time. And I'm saying this because when we have a new moon, it's a time of setting intentions. It's a magical time. It's a time where we're putting down, this is what my values are, and this is what I want to draw in and attract to me. And it's really powerful in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is the magnetic sign in the zodiac. It just puts its hand out and it's just like, it just draws right to it. That's Taurus energy. So when you have a new moon that's in Taurus, knowing where it's at in your chart helps you to prioritize your intentions. It's in your home. So you are definitely going to have the ability to really fine tooth what you want for a home. Do you need somebody there for it to feel like home? Maybe where you're located is no longer feeling like home. It could be a whole lot of different things, right? It can be. If this is all confusing, because I know there's a lot going on, just comment to me. I'll help you out. But the Mercury will not clear its shadow zone, right? It's not going to be to the end of the month. So typically the advice for a Mercury retrograde in Taurus is if you're signing contracts, for some of you who might be selling a home or thinking about buying a home, like normally if you do something before Mercury's done and out of its shadow zone, there's likely going to have been like a mistake of some sort. Like somebody didn't sign something. So it creates major delays. So for those of you, how many of you have tried to buy a home and it was like, oh, the damn closing didn't go through, or they're saying it's going to be off or it's delayed X amount of times, right? Like this happens a lot, right? And so it's stuff like that. Expect to plan for more time in your travels. This has to do with the house though, right? So I don't know if you're contemplating buying or selling, you're changing something up in the home, because you're definitely rethinking things through. But with the new moon in Taurus and the Mercury not out of the shadow zone until the end of the month, if you have to do something that requires a serious signature, right? Like you're committed to something, you want to get a professional involved and have them have them double check things for you, right? Just because you don't want to make a mistake and sign on a dotted line and have it just be like, oh my God, you just never know. You always want to be cautious and be careful. And that's Taurus, slow and cautious for sure, right? Definitely. But we have Uranus still in Taurus energy. And so, yeah, there's Uranus sitting there in your fourth house. So it's like new and different. So for many of you, you probably changed your home around for that reason, that urge, that desire to make it look new again in some way. Uranus, right? But Uranus can also be like the air conditioning, right? Big appliances, the washer and the dryer, the refrigerator. Like just think of the oven, the big appliances in the house. That's Uranus, right? Because it's like the things that like the inventions, you know. So this is a spectacular month, really, for all the signs, but it can be very challenging for you, Aquarius. Okay, so the new moon. I don't know if I left you the degrees for the new moon in Taurus. It's at 28 degrees. Let me double check again on all my notes. 28 degrees and 25 minutes, and it's on May 19th. I don't think I said that part. Yeah, in your fourth house. Okay, so I hope you enjoy your May 2023. You got any questions? Just comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.